Thanks so much to all my patrons. Join now to help support the channel and help pick the books that I review. Link in the description. All right, so it is the first of the month, and that means it's time to talk about my October to-be-read list. But before we go into the books, let's talk about my September TBR contest. So, as you probably know by now, every month I do this contest where you predict the books that I will review that upcoming month. The people that get in the top 3 positions win, and the winners are highlighted in my TBR video, which we'll go over in just a moment. And if you win twice, you get to pick a book for me to read and review. Tons of people have won twice. In fact, this month we got somebody that's won twice, and they get to pick a book. So click down below after you finish this video, click the link in the description to officially submit your picks, and then join the Discord if you want to follow along. I post updates every time I finish a book, so you can follow along on like a leaderboard. It's a lot of fun. So the TBR gold medal winner this month was 𝗟𝗡, who got 7 out of 8 correct. This is 𝗟𝗡's second time winning. They picked a book that I'm going to review in November. Silver went to Kaiju-Ru, who also got 6 out of 8 correct, but got a lower tiebreaker score. Bronze went to Razzle Dazzle, who got 6 out of 8 correct. All right, so every month I ask a kind of silly question, and the response that I get the most enjoyment out of, I highlight in the video. The question this month was, what is your best original conspiracy theory? My favorite answer was submitted by Tony, and he said that it was that the Disney movie Frozen was made so that there would be less attention to Walt Disney being cryogenically frozen and more attention to the Disney movie Frozen. I don't know why, but I got a good laugh out of that. All right, so let's go over the books. The first book that I will be finishing this month is Adduel's Sin. This is the second book in the 𝐒𝐮𝐲 saga by Daniel T. Jackson. There's only 2 books out so far, so this will catch me up to current on the series. I'm doing this in physical book format. I actually already finished this as of filming. It is 650 pages, and my prediction before I read it was 4.5 stars. So I read the first book, which is just named 𝐒𝐿born. I think it's just named 𝐒𝐿born. I should look back and see. It is just named 𝐒𝐿born. It's up on top of my bookshelf right now. Because I think the author sent me both these books. And so I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was great. You know, the faults I had were pretty minimal, but they were enough to kind of keep it away from that, you know, the highest of the high. But I had a wonderful time with it. My enjoyment was through the roof. You know, I love this multi-POV, kind of darker story. I love the, you know, godlike powers that are, you know, going into certain people. I love the religious themes in it. I love good religious themes in my books, even though I'm not a religious person myself. I love it for some reason. I just love it when books do a good job at instituting it inside my books. In part, I think I really enjoy it because, you know, I don't want to offend anybody. So I'm going to say this, I think is the best way I can. But in these fantasy books, there can be, you know, tangible proof of, you know, gods. And it can make those religions seem so much more interesting to me as the reader. Because, you know, people have like, you know, people aren't waiting for like the second coming of like a Christ or something. You know, it's happening now, and there's powers that people have, and there's these major things that are going on in the now, and it's just super engaging. So I gotta think that the second book is gonna hold up to a similar score than my first one did, but you know, we'll see. All right, as for second books in a series that I gave 4.5 the first time I read them, this one is The King's Blood. This is the second book in the Dagger and the Coin series by Daniel Abraham. Daniel Abraham, more famously, is one half of the duo known as James S. A. Corey, who wrote Leviathan Wakes is the first book in it. What is the series called? How am I forgetting this? Super famous sci-fi series that has a TV show about it. Somebody say so in the comments. I'm sure you're yelling at me right now. Anyways, I'm doing this in book format. I'm currently reading it. I just started it today. Should finish this up around the 3rd. It is 529 pages, and I'm going to also predict 4.5 stars because I gave it 4.5 stars the first time. This one, you know, it feels like I don't really know where the story's going. I'm not quite understanding the overarching themes and what's going on here, but the different individual stories that I'm getting from this multi-POV story are really enjoyable. You know, I love the characters. I love each of their individual stories. I love the slow way that things are weaving together, even though I'm not quite getting the, you know, the grand part of here. Maybe there is no grand part. Maybe you know, this is what it's supposed to be. But this is the most enjoyment that The Expanse. I got it. It's The Expanse. I was going to say that I like this more than the books that I read from The Expanse. I read 3 books from The Expanse. I also read another book by Daniel Abraham that I was not a big fan of. I think it was Age of Ash, I think it was called. I think I got it. My brain's kind of coming around now. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I am a little worried because I keep notes in my e-reader. I have an e-reader where I have a pen and I take notes about the books as I read them. And for whatever reason, like I think one of my kids like deleted the note for this one, and so I'm from scratch. And I hate this feeling of going into a book, kind of forgetting some of the events that go on in the first one. A lot of people love it. They love that learning about the book again as they're reading it and kind of like refreshing their mind. I want to like read through my notes and like be like right up to speed as I'm going along with it, because I find that I read a lot slower and it's kind of a slog for the first 100 pages or so before I kind of get my brain in tune and I can go. So I'm a little, timidly wanting to go into this one, but I'm getting close to that 100-page point now, and it's starting to kind of kick off. So 4.5 is my prediction. All right, next up is Shards of Honor. This is the first chronological book in the 𝗂𝐶𝐿𝐼𝐵 saga. I don't know if it's the first published, but I'm pretty sure it's the first chronologically. This is by Lois McMaster Bujold, who is I don't know how famous, but maybe cult famous, but I think a pretty well-known fantasy sci-fi author that had books that came out, I believe, in the 80s, maybe some in the 90s as well. I'm doing this in physical book format. I should finish this up around the 6th. It is only 313 pages, and I'm predicting 4 stars. I read an omnibus from the 𝗂𝐶𝐿𝐼𝐵 saga that featured... what is his name now? I don't remember his name. But he felt like the main character. He was a character that very much reminded me of Lorien from The Sun Eater. He's this kind of swashbuckling like captain that always gets in these problems that he has to find his way out of. He's kind of physically a little bit more impaired, but he nonetheless is a very bright mind and always kind of gets ahead. And I really enjoyed the books that I read. The 2 main books I read in that omnibus I read were really good, and then I read the short story that I wasn't a big fan of. But nonetheless, I'm going into this one. I'm not reading like an omnibus. I'm just going to read one story. And this one is about maybe it's an omnibus. I don't think it is. Maybe it is about the mother of this character and her kind of backstory. And so I really, really, really enjoy the characterizations that that Lois McMaster Bujold. Do I just say Bujold or do I say McMaster Bujold? I don't know what to say. But that this author wrote, and they were really compelling, and I'm hoping that kind of carries through on this one. So I feel like 4 stars, kind of hedging my bet here. All right, this one I am so looking forward to. This is probably the book I'm most looking forward to this month, and it is The Fury of the Gods. This is the final book in the Bloodsworn saga by John Gwynne. This is releasing on October 22nd. I already got my hands on it. I should probably get this review out probably around the 14th or so. It is 576 pages, and I am predicting 5 stars. Look, I love the first 2. I gave them both 5 stars. How am I not going to love this one as well? Unless John Gwynne somehow just totally loses it. But I love how he ended his previous 2 series that he wrote. And I gotta think that this one just does as well. I love the way John Gwynne writes. I've given all of his book 5 stars, with the exception of one of them, which I gave 4.5 stars. He's one of my favorite authors, and I can't wait to see where this story goes. I've intentionally kind of hid myself from any information about it. I know nothing about it, other than, I know what the first 2 books were, but I can't wait. Now, this is... I mentioned this in my video I released yesterday about my recap video where I show off the books that were sent to me, but I was so happy, and I feel like I had this kind of big full circle moment as I got a review copy for this book. I got a review copy of The Hunger of the Gods. Is it EPUB or like an e-read or whatever from NetGalley? When I was just doing some basic Goodreads reviews, I didn't have very many followers or anything, and I got the book sent to me, and I was like, that's what kickstarted my YouTube, is I was like thinking about it for a little while. I had these other YouTubers I was watching, and I'm like, that'd be cool. Maybe I'll think about doing that someday. And then I got my hands on this book, and I'm like, this is a great opportunity for me to make my first video. So my first video I ever made was my review of Hunger of the Gods. And then now to this point where the author is sending me an advanced copy with the physical book that wants me to review it. It feels really good. It makes me So happy that I could shine some light on this wonderful series and be able to kind of read this book a little bit ahead of time. So yeah, can't wait. All right, next up is a reread for me, and this is Oathbringer. This is the third book in the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I'm doing this in audiobook. Should finish this up around the 13th. This is 1,248 pages, so a big chunky book. And I read audiobooks slower than physical books because I just don't spend as much time on them, so it's going to take me a while. I'm predicting 4 stars. The first time I read this book, I gave it, I think 4 stars, maybe 4.5 stars. But so I don't know what to think because, it pretty clearly was my least favorite of the Stormlight books. I loved the things I love about Stormlight could never be taken away by even a badly written book because I'm just in love with this world. I love these characters. But the things that I kind of associate with Stormlight weren't as evident here. These cool, awesome, jump up out of your seat, heroic, surprising moments just weren't there. And maybe they are, and I forgot about them, but it feels like what a lot of this book was just trying to be cool, trying to bring it all together, all the characters have their powers now. Now we're going to have these big fights, this major, in my opinion, way too long battle sequence in the last, last 150 or so pages of the book. It felt like too big of a battle. It felt like it extended things far too long, and it somehow made it less epic by trying to make it more epic, if that makes sense. At least, it does for me. But maybe I'm wrong. I've rethought some of my opinions about a lot of books as I'm doing rereads of them. So maybe I'm going to read this and be like, you know what? It's the best of the series. A lot of people do think it's the best of the series. I think most people think Words of Radiance is, which is my current favorite. But we'll see as I do my reread. But yeah, looking forward to it. And the audiobooks have been very enjoyable. I really like the audiobook narrators. Individually, I don't love the male narrator on his own as he does his own books, but being teamed up with his wife and having this kind of back and forth they do, I feel like the voices he uses in Stormlight are a lot better than the voices I heard him use in Mistborn. So yeah, looking forward to it. All right, next up is Beyond Redemption. This is the first book in the Manifest Delusion series by Michael R. Fletcher. This won the TBR raffle, which is why I'm reading this one. I know nothing about it, but I am reading it in ebook format. I should finish this up around the 17th. It is about 500 pages, and I'm rating 5 stars. I'm doing this in my buddy read, so if you want to join and read along with the story with me, I would love to read with you. Come join my Discord. I'll have a dedicated room for it. We'll talk about it every day. We'll do little 40 or so pages a day, and we'll have a good time with it. But I did, as soon as it won the raffle wheel, I went and looked up some very basic things about what is it similar to? And it felt like so many of the things that it was claiming that it was similar to are some of my favorite kind of stuff. It feels like what I'm hearing is it's a darker, grim, dark kind of story. I'm all here for that. The grimmer and the darker you make your story, the more I'm going to enjoy it. And, maybe that's wrong. Maybe I'm totally off base. Also, the cover really evoked a lot out of me. I love the cover. I'm normally not a cover guy, but this one made me feel all sorts of happy feelings. And so purely based on general vibe, I am going to do a kind of a bulletproof. Normally, I predict 4 stars for a new read, but I kind of just feel like for some reason I'm getting a good feeling about this one, but we'll see. All right, next up is a historical fiction book, and it is Sharpe's Tiger. This is the first book from the Sharpe series by Bernard Cornwell. I'm doing this in an audiobook. I should finish this up around October 18th. It is 400 pages, and I'm predicting 4 stars. So I am doing this book solely at the recommendation of my buddy Ben from Books with Genghis Khan. He won't shut up about this series. He says it's awesome. But more than anything, he makes this claim that the audiobook narration is like God tier. Up there with Stephen Pacey in The First Law. And that intrigues me because I've been looking for some awesome audiobooks lately. I have a huge backlog of physical books that I'm going to read, but audiobooks, it's way less because my criteria for what I want to read in an audiobook is very different than what I do in a physical book. In an audiobook, I need it to be a little more simple. I need to not have an enormous cast of characters. I'll get confused because I'm doing other stuff as I'm doing audiobooks. I'm driving, I'm playing video games, I'm doing chores, stuff like that. So I need to be able to latch on to things a little bit better. But I also need a really good narrator because a bad narrator or even an okay narrator can ruin an otherwise good book. And a good narrator can really elevate things. And so I'm looking forward to it. I honestly, to be honest with you, know nothing about this. I don't even know what genre, or I know it's historical fiction. I don't even know what part of the world it takes place in, but I'm here for it, and I'm excited to try it out. All right, so the second to last book that I'm reading this month is another historical fiction. Is there historical fiction or just like fiction? But it's Master and Commander. This is the first book in the Aubrey and Maturin series by Patrick O'Brien. Master and Commander had a movie that was kind of well known that I saw and I enjoyed. This won the TBR vote, so every month on my Patreon, not TBR vote, Patreon vote. On my Patreon, you can vote on a book for me to read, and this one won. And so I'm doing this one on an audiobook. It feels like a perfect candidate for audiobook. Should finish this up around October 23rd. It is short. It's 384 pages, and I'm predicting 4 stars. Now, I guess I know a little bit about it because I watched the movie, but maybe it's totally off base because this is a huge series. I think it's huge. And so maybe that movie like combined a bunch of different stories, or maybe it was its own little individual story. I don't know. But all I know is I love boats. God, I love boats. I love seafaring stories. This entire book, I'm pretty sure, takes place on the ocean. I'm here for it. I can't wait, and I'm really excited. All right, and the final book. You know what? When I said earlier that Bloodsworn was the book that I was most looking forward to reading, The Fury of the Gods, that's the second book, the second most looked forward to I'm reading a book, because this one is. This is The Thousandfold Thought. This is the third and final book in the Prince of Nothing trilogy by Scott R. Baker. Scott R. Baker. I don't know. Really, it's in book format. Should finish this up around the 23rd of the month. It is 560 pages, and I am predicting the easiest prediction of all time, 5 stars. So the first 2 books in this series are 2 of my top 10 favorite books I've ever read. And everything about it speaks to me. You know, the characters are amazing. The world is just to die for. It's just to die for. It has that feeling of like the book was made for the world rather than the book made for the rather than the world made for the book, which is a really hard thing to do. You know, it feels like there's a million stories going on and that you could just jump into a different part of the world and there'd be this rich history going on. God, I love that kind of thing. You know, it feels like I'm reading a historical book because it's about this holy war that, you know, our world has been plagued with, and, you know, but it's very clearly fantasy. There's magical elements going on here. The characters are just incredible. The writing style itself, now writing style is very subjective. For me, this is like the top of the top of the top. And so just everything about this series has been perfection to me. So to finish out a trilogy, and I just can't wait to see where things go. I'm just really, really pleased that I'm finally get to be at this point. And I hope it's incredible, because then I'm going to jump straight into the other series that's in this world and check that one out. So yeah, super excited. I think it's called Aspect Emperor, or maybe that's the name of a book. I don't know, but I'm here for it. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Now that you're done, click down below, take the TBR contest. I'd love for you to join, see if you can win, and that you can force me to read the book of your choosing. So that's it. Thank you so much, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Amy, Alex P, Anna G, CJ, Doused, Darren, Daniel O, JD, Jonathan, Josh, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Slay, Tahir, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Joe UK, Kat Mick, Marcus, Michael Sugarman, and Sky. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.